Good job. Very nice. And you can see that I'm not super, just me personally, I'm not super picky about matching my whites and ivories because you figure that in Austin's time, cotton could have been white, and it is possible to bleach it out to white. But things like lace, things like trims, things that were imported or mixing wool with cotton with silk, you could see that they would be all different shades and all different tones. And I like the depth of that tonal look. That's just me, though. So if you ladies are warm, feel free to get out the dispensers and have a seat. We're going to turn it over to Miss Debra at this point.
In the same vein, I found longer jackets at thrift stores and cut them off using the lower part of the jacket as the binding around the bottom. And a lot of these can come with buttons that are horrible, and you can change the buttons out, which I did on all of these. Kelsey's. And there are some pretty nice jackets out here that work well for this. Both of these are wool blends. This one is a linen. And Janelle's has little pleats in the back that actually were in style during the Regency era. And so that worked real well. This one also, we can go ahead and do this one with this outfit. This actually goes well with this dress that she's going to be putting that on later for a different reason. And if you alter a jacket and you don't have machine sewing skills, this is really easy to do by hand also, to attach this binding. And the main thing to remember is just get the underneath the bust line measurement for this piece, and add a couple of inches to bring it around, and then you can pleat the rest of the jacket to fit it. So the most important thing to remember is this underneath measurement here. And then okay. And then this one is actually was a short sweater to begin with, amazingly, but you could cut off the sweater and do the same thing and just hand stitch or machine stitch a hem and then add some lace to the bottom of it. And this actually just looks like a wool jacket of the time. I don't think they had very many sweaters, actually. And again, I changed out the buttons on this. Buttons with holes were not as popular as shank buttons at the time. They were usually buttons with a shank or buttons that were covered in cloth or yarn. The shank is walk forward here a little bit on the back of the button.
Oh, okay.
That round attachment on the back.
Oh, okay.
So back to Yvette.
Excellent. Next thing I was going to talk about was outerwear. Besides the Spencer, you also had the choice of cloaks, and sometimes cloaks would be in the family for several years. The idea that a piece of clothing well-made, made out of really good fabric, so used to throwing away clothes after just a couple of years, when they go out of style. But a cloak that was well-made might have come from the 1770s, 1780s. I'm going to figure out that very One way of attacking that I don't have talent or I don't have a closet space for a full Regency wardrobe is to go and rent. And this actually came originally from the drama department at U of sorry, I just lost my train of thought. At the community college in Coeur d'Alene. I got to know Judy, who worked there for several years. This is one of the first capes that she made, and it's the wrong color. I'm so sorry. And it's very, very Renaissance-y. But if you go to the Ren Fair and you want to do double duty with your outfits, you can see that the cape really, it just pops. And if you can imagine this in red or kind of a dusty pink or gray, really any color, it makes a grand entrance. And I have worn this in many different time periods, and it always gets a lot of comments. I think it's the color. This fabric wasn't particularly authentic either, but the idea that it was something antique, that might have been, they respected clothing that was well made, and they would keep it around for quite some time. And so you often see young women wearing these old clothes, that's been in the family for a while, just as something to cover up and to keep. Are you wearing that? No, not yet. Okay, but the idea that a younger woman would have to wear these hand-me-downs, and then when you were of marriageable age, they might spend a little more money on you and make you a nice new cape. Some other things that you might wear to round out your wardrobe. These were made by Jane. Beautiful little gloves. And they're just fingerless. This is the tube. So one thing that I like to do is to trade my sewing talents with somebody who has talents that I'm not as good at. I cannot do cables, but my mom has volunteered to make me some Regency accessories, which you'll see in a little while. And then in return for that, I made her this lovely sheep dress that we saw Anne in a little while ago. Another piece that you might see is a reticule, and we have several reticules here today. Here's one that my mom made. This is knitted lace. Lace was typically knitted or imported. The idea of crochet really didn't really yet. It was there, but it was done on the ground as tambour work. Have you done any of that yet? Any tambour work on net? Yeah, I'm just getting interested in it, and I don't have any examples of that to show you today. Another thing is to take scraps. The idea of using all of your scraps. So a reticule just uses hardly anything for fabric, and if you look closely, you can see that this is about how much jacket got cut off of the ivory spencer. And so what I did is I took the images that were on my my copy of Austin's Complete Works, and they're not authentic to the time period either, but I kind of freehand those and then embroidered them onto this reticule. And it's just a little place to keep your keys, to keep your phone, to keep your lipstick. You can hold on to that. And we'll come on out. This is one that is a little more, a little more free-form. I had some really interesting pieces of embroidery. They weren't embroidered when I bought them, that I picked up at the Mennonite auction. I don't know how long the Mennonites had their hands on these, but they were at the garage sale at the Menno Church out by Ritzville, and they kind of looked vaguely colonial. I thought, well, somebody would have reused that embroidery. They wouldn't have just thrown it away. Like, they didn't have the goodwill to give things away too. So reticules were very popular, and you can see that I've added some inauthentic sparkle satin, and this happened to be a Walmart dollar earring. It came in a pair. I haven't used the other one yet, but there you go, a reticule for keeping all of your necessaries in. Another piece that you might need for going out is a bonnet. And this is my on the fly with what I have costume right here. And so I happen to have a straw hat that did have a little bit of a brim. It's not precisely a bonnet, but it looks a lot more bonnety with ribbon on it, some little ribbon ears and some streamers. And we'll put this right on Amy's head. And the best part about this ribbon is I didn't have to buy it. It came wrapped around a blanket that I bought. I bought one of those fleece blankets, and there's, look at all that ribbon. Hey, I bet anybody could buy one of those colored fleece blankets and end up with bonus ribbon. That's cute. I like it. Some other things that you can look out for if you are into antiquing or thrifting or just going into interesting shops. Items with kind of a Middle Eastern flair were popular, and there are lots of images of tassels and baubles on as trim on the hems of overdresses or on shawls. And so I thought this was kind of cute. I would never have thought of this as a Regency type accessory, But it just struck me, and turn around, isn't that sweet? So there we go. Another typical accessory, the knitted shawl. We'll put this on Emily. This one happens to be a dupatta. This one that Emily's been wearing is a dupatta from an Indian, I guess it's a Punjabi type outfit. If you've ever seen the outfits, it's not a sari, it's like a long dress and then pants underneath. This one actually came with the matching blouse. This is one that was, again, knitted by my mom. There's some interesting thread hanging off of it. So you can see that the knitted lace was very popular at that time. Not really sure about this particular full-on yarn, but there it is. Another look. Because you wouldn't wear the cap outdoors. You could, if you were just out in your garden or something. But it was typical to wear a cap underneath a straw bonnet to keep, this isn't going to stay on for me there. You can go ahead and set it down. It really does keep, if you wear a cap underneath your bonnet, it keeps the straw from grabbing hold of your hair and taking it with it. This one would be probably held on with a hairpin, but I want to talk about this one. This was originally, it looked like a ball cap when I bought it, and it was at a dollar store in Tacoma, kind of the sketchy part of Tacoma. and literally, it was a ball cap, and I took part of an old wedding gown sleeve. I found an old wedding gown at a thrift store, and just kind of gathered it on there, and it made the brim just big enough so it didn't look like the ball cap quite so much, and added some ribbon, added some flowers. I won't make you suffer through that. And then a few more a few more reticules to show you. Here, this is an example of, take out this part. You didn't know it was going to be this. Another reticule that I made, this is a coin purse, and if you look underneath the flowers, there's a little tag on there. It came with flower something lifestyle, and it just came like that. I just pinned some flowers on the front, literally with a safety pin. And it's enough so that you don't have to carry your keys just hanging up, like with a lanyard. I promise it wasn't Merge River. She's giving me the eye. Another good, simple accessory to change your look is gloves. These are just regular old, buy them at the antique store gloves. I don't know, this look kind of tight. It would make you suffer through those. But just simple gloves. And again, if you've gone with the white and ivory together, it doesn't matter how yellow they've gotten, because you can see that gloves come in all shades of not white. And then if you're really desperate for gloves, these ones, are great. These ones, and they're a little bit worn, actually came with a lotion moisturizing set that you would put the lotion on your hands, and then I think my husband was using them for handling antique coins too. But you can see that just that little pop, even though they're not authentic, from back here, she knows what she's doing, right? Nice job. So if you want to take a seat again. A few other accessories to be a little more authentic. And now I'll turn it over to one would be for the lady of the house to have a chatelaine. Chatelaine is it's an accessory that kind of is a carry-all, and this just has a pin on it. This one happens to be from the Civil War, but I don't think anyone would notice the difference between the ones that just stack you right here. I don't think that many people, you'd have to be a jeweler to notice the difference between what was going on in the Civil War with jewelry and what was going on in Regency time. But you just hook it on your waistband, and there you have your scissors, preferably in a case. Those are kind of pointy scissors. Maybe the keys to the house, if you had 2 or 3 keys that you didn't trust your housekeeper or servants with, particularly the keys to the tea or the sugar. Those were typical things that got done. This one happens to be a bottle opener. I got it off a Wish. Maybe a tiny coin purse if you were, going to tip somebody or going to send the servants off to market. You didn't trust them with money. And then this happens to be a watch pocket, although I have the watch separate. And one more thing I wanted to show you was the pocket watch. Often in Regency times it was worn around the neck, and then it was kind of looped through the belt. So if a lady was wearing a belt, sometimes you'd see it looped like around and through. And the same thing, excuse me, the same thing with eyeglasses, like they would wear like a single